one good and one bad. Whatever you want to start with.
Oh boy. Okay. Um, I would say for an interesting story, I'm going to go back to that very first rental property that I had. We had a Section 8 tenant in there, and I already mentioned to you that I was not like the greatest landlord of all time. But the first tenant that we had was a Section 8 tenant, had a couple kids, and honestly, I would drive by the property once every month or two just to kind of make sure that it hadn't burned down. With Section 8, she had a voucher that paid about 90% of her rent, and so she would always pay a piece of it. And usually that came in right about on time. And so it was pretty smooth for a while. And then one month came and I didn't get a check from her. I got the Section 8 check, but I didn't get her portion of the rent, which was like another $80 or something like that. I can't remember. I drove by the house and it looked really quiet, like nobody had been there in a while. And so I started calling and leaving her messages, not getting any response. And then out of the blue, probably halfway through that month, I got a call from some guy who said he was a friend of hers. And she had reached out to him and wanted him to let me know that she was in prison and that she was going to figure everything else out when she got out of prison, get me paid up and all that kind of stuff. And so I looked on public records and found out what she was in for, and she was not going to be getting out of jail anytime soon. And so basically we had her served in prison with an eviction notice. We got a default judgment because she didn't show up. And so I got access to the house shortly after that. She had given access to the house to some of her friends, and they had destroyed that house. I mean, cigarette burns on the carpet. There was ashes everywhere, drug paraphernalia, holes kicked in the walls. I mean, broken windows, you name it. I mean, everything. And I wasn't making enough money to do all that at that time. And so my wife, I mean, credit to her, like she gave me a little bit of grace, and we had a little line of credit on our personal home. And so we used all of that money. We borrowed the money to fix the house up, and she came over and helped me out fixing that house up. And it took us, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks to kind of get it back to where it needed to be and get it re-rented. But that was definitely an interesting experience having, and by the way, we went in the first couple of days, we went in and started doing renovations, and we changed the locks. And then those same people came back and kicked the door in, kicked our brand new door in, and went back in and undid all the stuff that we did, started burning our new carpet and kicking holes in the drywall that we had just so we went through that process a few times before they stopped coming back too. And it's ironic because, like I mentioned, our market in our town is super safe, but that was definitely an experience. And I learned a lot about tenant screening, tenant management, relationship management, all that kind of stuff to get better and better and better all the time. That was definitely an awakening. But the ironic thing is even after all those repairs and everything, we still had a lot of equity in the property, and that I still own that house today. And that one house has probably bought me 4 or 5 other properties.
The most interesting thing that I figured out of this thing, that you did the eviction in prison.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that eviction story before.
You know, it's funny. I hear a lot about people trying to serve eviction notices to their tenants, and they keep skirting them. And I kind of joke around that it was really easy to get her served because we knew exactly where she was. She wasn't going anywhere.
All right, one more.
A good one. I've had, what's funny, I can't think of a lot of experiences I've had where I'm just like, whoa, that went perfectly, or that was like, that blew me away. Because like I mentioned before, it's really been slow and steady for us. I have one, I guess, that was a pretty good deal. That I have a policy that whenever I have a really good deal that comes across my plate, I always present it to any clients that I have first that are looking. I don't want to be sucking up all these great deals and my clients are wondering where all the good deals are. So I always present it to clients first. And if for whatever reason they don't want it, then I'll jump in. When interest rates shot up was it 2022, like in the summer of 2022?
Yeah.
And interest
I think September-ish.
Yeah. Basically, there was a 4-month period there where nobody was buying anything. They were kind of in sticker shock and nothing was happening. I had a client of mine that brought me a deal that I've done a bunch of deals with him. So it was this one that he wasn't in position to buy. He had all his money tied up, and he was like, hey, I've got this deal that looks really good. And the numbers on it were awesome. I wouldn't say it was a grand slam, but it was it was a solid double or a triple. And I brought it to 4 or 5 of my longtime clients who I knew were looking for properties, and all of them were like, I don't want to buy anything right now. Like, everything's too unstable. The market might crash. So I was sitting here with this opportunity, and I was like, well, I'm just going to buy this one then. So we bought it and fixed the place up, and our market did not crash. Our market has been very stable, and values have like slowly climbed over the last couple of years. And so that was just a simple BRRRR deal that we did. And right off the bat, we had, I would say, 30% equity in the property, and our market's gone up since then. Now we're probably like 45% or 65%, I should say, loan to value, or 55% loan to value. I had those numbers reversed, and just got this really solid property with a big chunk of equity that nobody else wanted because they were scared. And So I guess off the top of my head, that's one deal that we've done that like has worked out really well. It's cash flow positive, even with an 8% mortgage on it. We have really great tenants in it and a big chunk of equity.